Every animal has its own way of saying hello. Dogs sniff each other's noses. Cats bump their heads together. Chimpanzees pick bugs out of each other's fur to say, "I'm your friend." Giraffes rub their long necks together. Meerkats stand up on their back legs just to check who's around. Elephants wrap their trunks together like a hug. And then there's us. We reach out, we grab a total stranger's hand, and we shake it up and down, sometimes for people we've never met in our whole life. Stop and picture that for a second. You walk up to someone new, grab their hand, and jiggle it around like you're shaking water off it. If a dog did that to another dog, everyone would think it had lost its mind. So why do humans do it? Around the world, people say hello in all kinds of ways. In Japan, people bow. In New Zealand, the Maori press their noses and foreheads together in a greeting called the hongi. In parts of Tibet, people used to stick out their tongues to say hello. In France, people kiss each other on the cheek, sometimes twice. In Ethiopia, some men bump shoulders. And then there's us, grabbing a hand and pumping it up and down like we're trying to start a lawnmower. Where did this even come from? Let's go back. Way, way back, about 2,800 years ago. There's a stone carving from ancient Assyria, an empire that existed almost 3,000 years ago in what is now Iraq. It shows two kings clasping hands. One was named Shalmaneser III, the other was named Marduk Zakir Shumi I. Try saying that name 5 times fast. That carving is the oldest picture of a handshake that anyone has ever found. Two kings shaking on a deal carved into stone forever. Even earlier than that, in one of the oldest stories ever written, the Greek poet Homer's Iliad, warriors clasp hands to make a promise to each other. Not just a hello, a pact, a way of saying, "I mean what I say, and you can count on it." A few hundred years later in ancient Greece, people were doing it as a proper greeting too. They even had a name for it, dexiosis, which means offering the right hand. You can still see it carved onto gravestones and vases that are over 2,000 years old. The Romans copied the idea and called it dextrorum iunctio. They even stamped it onto coins right next to the faces of their emperors. And here's a strange little coincidence. Assyria and Greece were far apart, and back then there were no phones, no letters that traveled fast, no way to look up what the neighbors were doing, yet somehow both civilizations landed on almost the exact same idea, gripping right hands to seal a promise. Historians have found hand-clasping customs from ancient Arabia too, again with no clear connection to the others. Nobody fully knows why so many separate groups of people, thousands of miles apart, all reached for the exact same gesture. Here's the theory historians love best. Back then, almost every grown man carried a weapon, a sword, a dagger. So when you met a stranger, how could you know they weren't about to attack you? You showed them your empty hand. An open hand with nothing in it meant one simple thing. I'm not here to hurt you. But wait, if it's just about showing an empty hand, why do we shake it up and down? Why not just hold it still? This is where it gets a little sneaky. Hundreds of years ago, knights and nobles wore huge puffy sleeves, roomy enough to hide a small dagger without anyone noticing. So when two people clasped hands, they gave it a good shake, up and down, on purpose, just to see if anything sharp came loose and tumbled out onto the floor. A trust gesture. And a hidden weapon check, all in one move. So that solves it, right? Mystery closed? Not quite. Because for a very long time, the handshake wasn't something people did every single day. It was saved for big, important moments. Sealing a business deal, making a promise, ending a war between two kingdoms. So how did it turn into the everyday hello we use now for anybody, anywhere? For that, we jump forward to the 1600s, to a group in England called the Quakers. The Quakers believed something that was actually pretty bold for their time, that everyone was equal. Kings, farmers, rich people, poor people, all the same, no exceptions. Back then, if you met someone important, you were supposed to bow to them or tip your hat, depending on how important they were. The more important the person, the lower you had to bow. The Quakers said no bowing, no hat tipping, no ranking people by how fancy they seemed. Instead, they offered every single person the exact same handshake. If you were a Quaker, you shook hands with a king the exact same way you'd shake hands with the shoemaker who fixed your boots. Same grip, same respect, no exceptions for anybody. That idea spread. Slowly, the handshake stopped being just for treaties and deals between kings. It became something anyone could offer anyone else, an equal greeting for equal people. And that's basically how it landed in your hand today. So now we know why we do it and why we shake it up and down. Mystery solved, except for one thing. One pretty gross thing that scientists only discovered a few years ago. In 2014, scientists at a university in Wales did a strange experiment. They put on rubber gloves. They dipped one glove into a container full of harmless bacteria, the kind that's totally safe but easy to track and count. Then that gloved hand shook hands with someone wearing a clean glove. Then they measured how many germs jumped across. Next, they tried a high five, then a fist bump, the same kind of greeting that had gone viral a few years earlier when a president and his wife bumped fists on stage instead of shaking hands. And suddenly, everybody wanted to try it. The results? The handshake was the germiest greeting by far. Nearly twice as many germs jumped across during a handshake as during a high five. And the fist bump? It was the cleanest greeting of all, up to 10 times cleaner than a handshake. The scientists even noticed something extra. The longer and firmer the handshake, the more germs moved across. So that big, strong, extra-long handshake grown-ups love to brag about? Turns out it's basically a superhighway for germs. Turns out the very gesture we invented to prove we were safe to be around might be one of the best ways in the world to pass along a cold. You might even remember this part yourself. During the COVID-19 pandemic, doctors everywhere told people to stop shaking hands completely. For a while, the whole world tried out new ways to say hello without touching germy palms. Elbow bumps, foot taps, little waves from a safe distance away. But here's the funny part. As soon as it felt safe again, almost everyone went right back to shaking hands, like nothing had ever happened. Think about your own life for a second. You probably fist bump your friends, high-five your teammates, and save the handshake for grown-ups you've just met, like a new teacher or a friend's parent. It's almost like everyone already knows deep down which greeting is safest, even without ever reading the science. So here's the strange part. We know it spreads germs. Real scientists have proven it with real experiments, and we still do it. Everywhere, in almost every country on the planet, from world leaders shaking hands in front of cameras to two kids meeting for the very first time at school. Why would we keep doing something that spreads sickness just to say hello? Maybe because a handshake was never really about the hand. Almost 3,000 years ago, it meant I'm not carrying a weapon. 400 years ago, it meant you and I are equal. Today, it still means something a lot like that. For one tiny second, two people who might be complete strangers agree to reach out, touch, and trust each other. Germs and all. Think about how strange that actually is. We have bows, we have waves, we have fist bumps that are 10 times cleaner. And out of every single option, humans keep choosing the messiest one over and over, all around the world, on purpose. So next time you shake someone's hand, you're not just saying hello. You're doing something people have been doing for almost 3,000 years. Kings did it. Warriors did it. Farmers did it. Now you do it too. Weird? A little. Sure, it's stranger than a dog sniffing another dog or a giraffe rubbing necks, but it might be one of the oldest hellos in the entire world. Long after the swords and the daggers and the sleeves disappeared, the handshake stayed. Kingdoms rose and fell. Languages changed completely. Entire empires disappeared off the map. And through all of it, this one tiny gesture just kept getting passed along, hand to hand, all the way to you. And somehow, all these thousands of years later, it still hasn't gone out of style.